Hello and welcome back, or welcome if you've never even seen my videos, which you probably haven't because this is my second video ever. Goodness gracious. After my first video I watched it and I will be honest with you, it was a little cringy. But this one's probably going to be cringy too, and we're just going to power through until this gets a little less awkward. So thanks for joining me. I kind of have a lot of updates since my last video. As I mentioned in that one, I was about to start my fourth and final cycle of letrozole under my OBGYN. So we did that, and I want to share an update on that cycle as well as what has happened since then, where we're going now, all of the things. So thanks for joining me, and let's jump in. So final cycle of letrozole. I, to be honest, kind of felt defeated when we started this cycle, which I know that this is going to be a probably long and treacherous journey, but that doesn't really make it any easier. So I stopped getting excited that maybe I was going to ovulate, and I didn't even really take pregnancy tests last cycle. I just felt like this is not going to work. I just knew in my gut it wasn't going to happen, and I had a really poor attitude that cycle. So I did ovulate. I was taking the same dosage of letrozole that I had taken before, so I wasn't really expecting anything different. I did ovulate, did not get pregnant. So I called my OB once I started my period after that cycle and let her know that I did not conceive that month, and she processed a referral to the fertility clinic. So she called me and said that before they treated me at the clinic, they would probably want me to do an HSG first. She had tried to get me in to do the procedure before my first appointment with the fertility clinic, but I guess you have to have it on a certain day of your cycle, or there's a window that you can get it in, and I had already passed that. And because I wasn't on a medication, I did my last cycle of letrozole, so there was nothing in my body forcing me to ovulate. I knew that I wasn't going to have another cycle before my next doctor's appointment. So she called in the test, said just in case, if you get a cycle, go ahead and schedule this test. Otherwise, go ahead and go to your fertility appointment, and they will probably schedule it before you can move forward with any other testing. So that's what we did. I went to my fertility appointment last week, actually, which was really exciting. I don't really get nervous about doctor's appointments anymore, or blood work or anything, but this appointment I was nervous for. My stomach was upset all day. I felt really anxious. I couldn't sleep the night before, which is just not like me, but it's kind of a big deal, and it was something I was excited for, but also dreading at the same time, if that makes sense. Like, I'm excited to take the next steps to be able to figure out what's wrong or how we're going to start our family, but at the same time, like, I can't believe that this is my story, and I can't believe that I have to go through this when it's so easy for other people. So I had a lot of mixed emotions that day, but really just hopeful and excited that we were heading in the right direction. So the appointment went really, really well. It was a lot of question and answer time, which I totally knew. A lot of medical history, history with my menstrual cycle, asking Tucker and I some questions. They ordered a lot of blood work for me to get done. Actually, 8 vials of blood work, which the last time I had blood drawn, I had 4 tubes of blood, and I almost fainted. So when she told me 8, I was like, oh my God, pray for me right now. But I survived, and I didn't feel queasy, and I just was very proud of myself after that. So 8 cycles of blood work. He said in a perfect world we would go ahead and get started with an HSG test. However, I guess the lab that does it, or radiology or whoever, they were booked through the end of May. So it's only March still now, so that would have been like 2 months of waiting before I could do anything, and that's really frustrating. He said, you know, you're pretty low risk for having any blockages, so if you're okay, I'd like to just get started with treatment, and then if it doesn't work, then we'll move forward with an HSG. So he's like, we don't really have a clue where you're at in your cycle because it's so irregular, so let's do a sonogram. Let's see if you have any follicles that are, you know, ready, big enough to ovulate, or if you have ovulated, or just what's going on. And if all looks good, we can get started with an IUI. We do the sonogram, and as expected, I did not ovulate. I did not have any like dominant, really big follicles. I had more than 12 follicles on each ovary. I don't really know what's average in a normal person versus someone who has PCOS, but I had 12, more than 12 on each. I don't know the exact number. And he said, no, there's no really big ones, so we can go ahead and get started with an IUI. So we went and got all the blood work done after that, and then went down to the pharmacy to pick up my medication to get started on this cycle. So he was going to have me start Femira or letrozole the same day, which is what I had previously taken, 5 milligrams. Since it worked, we were going to continue that. So I started 5 milligrams of Femira. I took that for 5 days, and I just actually took my last dosage of it yesterday. And then I would come back the following Friday for another sonogram. So I'm supposed to go back next week for that appointment to see how my follicles are growing, if I can take the trigger shot. So that's the next thing. Is the next medication that they prescribed me was an injection, which I knew that we were going to have to come to that, but it doesn't make it any easier to deal with. And Tucker and I are both afraid of needles, so we haven't really decided who's going to give me that shot yet. And I haven't received any instruction on even how to administer that, so that's a little scary. But that's in my fridge, which it's just a little weird that I have a shot in my refrigerator. But that's the next step. So another sonogram, they'll tell me when I can take the trigger shot, and then we would go in for our IUI. And it works out perfectly because based on how long it takes me to ovulate in my cycle, previously I think we would be doing the IUI like the week prior to our honeymoon. So we're going on our honeymoon mid-April, well, early to mid-April, and I think the IUI would be like right before that. So that kind of works out nice. We would be on vacation during the 2-week wait, nice and relaxed, not stressing about it, and then we would start testing and get blood work done when we got back. So that was kind of an ideal situation. However, it looks like we might have some bumps in the road now. Yesterday, I started spotting, and I kind of feel the way I feel when I'm going to start my period. This is all foreign territory, so maybe it's normal, but I've never started letrozole on cycle day 30 or something, which is what I started it on this time. So maybe this is normal, maybe it's not. I don't know if I'm actually going to start my period or not. So I'm kind of just waiting to see what happens, and I'm going to call the clinic on Monday if I do start my period and find out how this changes our protocol. Do we start over with Femira again? Just what is that? How does that affect our timeline? And we might need to reschedule until after our honeymoons, which is the only bummer, but it is what it is. Trying not to stress about the things that I can't change, even though that's really hard, and just trying to keep a more positive outlook than I've had the past few months, because it just is such a bummer, and it's the same thing over and over again, ovulating but not getting pregnant. What's really going on with my body? So hopefully this is a little bit more optimistic cycle, but we'll see. Like I said, not trying to dwell on it too much, and I think the vacation coming up will be a really nice break and just an opportunity for us to relax and forget about all things infertility. So that'll be super fun. Thank you so much for watching this update. I know the fertility world can be very confusing, and it's almost like another language if you're not going through it. There's such a big learning curve. So if you have any questions about anything I mentioned, just put a comment below, and I'll be more than happy to answer or explain or chat. But I'm really hoping that through this video I can connect with some other people who are going through the same thing. I find so much comfort, and I learned so much about my body and fertility and all of the things by watching other people's videos. So I'm hoping that this is helpful to others and also helpful to me. I think it'll be good for me to share instead of just holding things in. It's a little uncomfortable right now, and I'm like, I don't like sharing personal things with people. I don't like being emotional. I don't like any of it, but I think it will make me feel a little bit better in the long run. So we're doing it, we're going for it, and thank you for joining me.